Airports look polished on the surface, but behind the scenes, it's a non-stop game of timing, space, and rules. And most travelers never get told how it really works. Some secrets are just little policies. Airlines and airports don't advertise loudly because they can seriously change what you pay, where you sit, and how smoothly your trip goes. So let's get into 10 airport secrets most people only learn the hard way. Number 1. The gate is watching. A lot of people think the real airport experience starts when boarding begins, but gate agents usually start clocking what's happening way earlier than that. Not because they're bored, but because the gate area is where small problems turn into big delays. If boarding slows down, the airline's on-time stats take a hit, connections get missed, crews can run into legal work hour limits, and suddenly everyone's day gets messy. So agents do what you'd do in their position. They scan the gate area and try to spot trouble before it becomes a scene. The easiest trouble to spot is carry-on luggage that looks oversized, overweight, or like it's secretly 3 bags pretending to be 1. And the awkward part is, the earlier you camp out right in front of the podium, the more time you give them to notice. It's not personal, it's just pattern recognition. Bulky hard-shell suitcase, backpack, plus a shopping bag, plus a neck pillow stuffed like a burrito, that's basically a flashing sign. And once an agent has noticed you, it's hard to unnotice you. If you want the smoothest experience, the best move isn't to hide or do anything shady. It's to make your stuff look obviously compliant. Keep extra items inside your main bag, don't juggle loose items, and don't make the gate feel like you're about to argue. Airports are stressful, and gate agents can usually tell who's about to turn a simple rule into a 20-minute debate. Also, timing matters in a totally boring, practical way. When boarding begins, agents are busy scanning passes, handling upgrades, fixing seat issues, and dealing with last-minute paperwork. They are not looking for a side quest. But if you show up extremely early and plant yourself in their line of sight, you're basically volunteering to be part of that side quest. If your bag is close to the limit, it's smarter to check the real allowance for your ticket before you even leave home, and then pack with a little buffer so you're not living on the edge of the rule. Wheels, handles, and hard corners matter. A bag that basically fits is the kind of bag that gets attention. Another thing most travelers don't realize: the gate area is also where airlines try to protect the boarding flow. If overhead bins fill up, the last groups end up gate-checking bags, which slows down the line and creates frustration. So agents are motivated to prevent a surprise pileup at the door. That's why you'll sometimes see them quietly tagging bags before boarding starts, especially on full flights. It's not always about money. It's about keeping the boarding process from turning into chaos. And if you've ever watched a boarding line explode because people are arguing about bag size, you get why they try to prevent that. This leads straight into a second secret, because the tool they use to settle bag arguments is way more powerful than most people think. Number 2, the sizer bin isn't neutral. That metal carry-on sizer at the gate looks like a harmless measuring tool, but socially, it's basically a courtroom. The moment your bag goes into that frame, the argument shifts from "I think it fits" to "it fits or it doesn't." And if your suitcase is even a tiny bit too big, like the wheels stick out by half an inch, it creates a very clean, very simple outcome. From the airline's perspective, that's perfect. Fast decision, no debate, line keeps moving. From your perspective, it can feel like you just stepped into a trap, especially if you were trying to be responsible by checking. Here's the thing, airlines measure carry-on size, including wheels and handles, and the sizer doesn't care that your bag fit last time. Different airlines have different limits, and even within the same airline, enforcement can be stricter on certain routes or during busy seasons. If your bag is right on the edge, you're living dangerously, because you're relying on luck and mood. That's why experienced travelers don't aim for exactly the max. They aim for clearly under. Soft-sided bags can be a lifesaver here because they can squish a little, while hard shell cases can't negotiate with physics. Another detail people miss: the personal item rule is usually the one that causes the most drama because it's the easiest to accidentally exceed. A backpack that looks like a normal backpack can still be too large depending on the airline. And when you pair that with a carry-on, the agent isn't just looking at size, they're looking at total compliance. If you want a low-stress approach, do your measuring at home with a tape measure and weigh your bag if the airline has weight limits for cabin bags. Airport scales and sizers aren't where you want to discover you're over. If you're already at the airport and you're unsure, checking the fit away from your specific gate can lower the odds of turning it into a public moment. But the real goal is to avoid being borderline in the first place. Because the sizer isn't just a measuring device, it's a decision device. And once that decision is made, the next part is where a lot of people get shocked. Sometimes enforcement is strict for a reason that has nothing to do with fairness and everything to do with incentives and policies. Number 3, bag fees can be incentivized. Most travelers assume gate agents are just enforcing rules because rules are rules. That's partly true, but the airline world is also a business built on add-ons. Seat selection, early boarding, checked bags, carry-ons on certain fares, even snacks on some flights. So when you see a sudden crackdown on carry-on size or personal item limits, it's not random. It's usually the airline tightening the system so they can keep boarding fast and make the pricing model work the way it was designed. And yes, there's been public reporting that at least one airline has used bonus incentives connected to catching oversized bags at the gate. That doesn't mean every airline does it, and it doesn't mean every gate agent is out to get you. But it does explain why enforcement can feel extremely strict, especially on low-cost carriers where the base ticket price is low and the profit often comes from extras. The practical takeaway isn't fight the system. Fighting at the gate is almost always the worst idea, because the gate desk is where final decisions happen, and you don't want to be the person creating a safety or disruption issue. The practical takeaway is, know what you paid for. A lot of tickets today are sold in different buckets. Some include a carry-on. Some only include a personal item. Some let you pick a seat. Some don't. People skip over these details because they're excited to book the cheapest fare, and then they're surprised later when the rules feel harsh. The sneaky part is how the price changes depending on when you add the bag. Buying a bag allowance online ahead of time is often cheaper than paying at the airport, and paying at the gate can be the most expensive version. That's not a moral judgment. That's just how the pricing is structured. Another small but important detail: gate checking a bag because it's oversized is not the same thing as voluntarily checking a bag. Sometimes airlines will offer free gate checks because the flight is full and they want more overhead bin space. That can be a good deal if you don't need quick access to your stuff. But if you're being forced to check because you're over the limit, that's different, and it can come with a fee depending on the airline and fare. So before you even get to the airport, treat your carry-on rules like part of your ticket, not like a suggestion. Screenshot your baggage allowance from the airline site or app, make sure you're reading the rule for your exact fare type, and pack accordingly. Because when you're standing at the gate, the rules aren't flexible, the line is watching, and nobody at the podium has time for a long conversation. And speaking of conversations at the podium, there's another secret that makes people feel like they're being misled, even when the agent isn't trying to be evil. It's the way delays get explained. Number 4, delay updates are often guesswork. If you've flown enough, you've heard this classic routine. We're looking at a 20-minute delay. Then 20 minutes later, it's another 20 minutes. Then again. And after an hour of that, everyone is annoyed because it felt like the truth was being drip-fed. Sometimes that happens because the gate agent literally doesn't have better information. The agent is getting updates from operations, dispatch, the incoming aircraft, maintenance, weather systems, and air traffic control. A lot of moving parts. But sometimes, the rolling delay updates happen for a simpler reason: crowd control. If they announce a 2-hour delay right away, half the gate disappears to find food, sit somewhere quiet, or wander. Then when the plane shows up earlier than expected, boarding turns into a scavenger hunt. Airlines want people close enough to board quickly, because a fast boarding keeps the schedule from getting even worse. So you get these smaller extensions that keep the group hovering nearby. The fix is pretty simple. Don't rely on only what you hear over the loudspeaker. Check the airline's app because it often updates faster and more accurately than announcements. If you want extra context, you can check where the aircraft is coming from using a flight tracking site or app by entering your flight number. That won't guarantee anything. Planes can swap, crews can change, gates can move, but it gives you a more realistic picture than maybe 20 minutes. Also, watch the difference between departure time and boarding time. People hear departure delayed and assume they have all the time in the world. But airlines can still start boarding as soon as the aircraft and crew are ready, and boarding can happen fast when they're trying to catch up. So you want to manage your time like an adult. Stay close enough that you can return quickly, but don't glue yourself to the carpet in front of the desk for 2 hours. Another small reality check, gate agents are often the messenger, not the decision maker. Getting angry at them doesn't speed up the plane, and it doesn't make the airline suddenly hand out compensation. If you want to protect yourself, document what you can. Take screenshots of delay notices in the app, keep your boarding pass, and if you miss a connection, go to the airline as soon as it's obvious you're at risk. That leads into something people underestimate. Gate agents and ticket agents can't control the weather, but they can sometimes do little fixes that make your day way better, if you approach it the right way. Number 5. The desk has quiet superpowers. The gate desk looks like a simple scanning station, but it's actually a control panel for a lot of things that matter. Agents can often change seats within the same cabin, adjust your routing when things go wrong, reprint or reissue boarding passes, add you to standby lists, and sometimes protect you on a later flight if your connection is tight. They can also fix dumb stuff like duplicate seat assignments, missing middle names on tickets that confuse systems, and seat map glitches where the app shows a seat that isn't really available. None of this is magic. It's just that the gate agent has access to the airline system and can do edits you can't always do in the app. The problem is, the desk is also where chaos arrives first. So the secret isn't they can do it. The secret is how to ask so you actually get help. Keep it simple, specific, and respectful. Hey, if there's any chance, could you move me closer to the front? I have a tight connection. That's a clear request with a reason. Or, if there's an aisle seat available in the same section, I'd really appreciate it. Even if they can't do it, you've made it easy for them to check quickly. What usually doesn't work is a long speech about how your last flight was delayed and the airline ruined your week. The agent didn't. And long speeches slow the line and make everyone more stressed. Another thing people don't realize, some seats are intentionally held back until late in the process. They might be reserved for crew positioning, passengers with special needs, families that need to sit together, or last-minute changes. So the seat map you see can look full, but the agent might still have a couple of options. Timing matters too. The best moment to ask for a small favor is before boarding starts, when the agent has a few minutes. The worst moment is when the boarding lane is packed and the scanner is beeping every 2 seconds. Also, gate agents can say no, and in certain cases, they can deny boarding if a passenger is acting aggressive, threatening, or clearly unfit to fly safely. That's not a scare tactic. It's just how airlines maintain safety and order. So if you want the desk's superpowers working for you, not against you, the simplest strategy is to be the calm person with the clear question. And once you realize the desk is partly about managing limited resources, seats, time, overhead space, the next airport secret makes a lot more sense. Airlines sometimes sell more seats than exist. Number 6, overbooking is part of the plan. Overbooking sounds like a scam until you realize it's basically a numbers game. Airlines know that on many routes, a certain percentage of passengers won't show up, will miss connections, or will change flights. If they sold exactly the number of seats on the plane, they'd fly with empty seats more often, and empty seats are lost money that can't be recovered after takeoff. So airlines sometimes oversell flights. Most of the time, nothing dramatic happens. The no-shows balance it out. The drama happens when everyone shows up. That's when you hear the gate announcement asking for volunteers to take a later flight. Here's what most people don't understand. Volunteering can be a smart move if you have flexibility, because airlines are often willing to offer travel credits, vouchers, or sometimes cash equivalent compensation to avoid involuntary denied boarding. but you should treat it like a mini negotiation, not like a mystery prize. Ask what you're getting, how you receive it, and what the rules are. Is it a voucher with blackout dates? Is it a credit that expires? Can it be used for multiple tickets or only one? Do you get meals or a hotel if the new flight is the next day? And most importantly, when exactly are you confirmed on the new itinerary? You don't want to give up your seat and then sit in standby purgatory. Also, if you ever get bumped involuntarily because of oversales, there are formal rules in some countries, like the US, about denied boarding compensation. And those rules depend on things like how late you arrive compared to your original schedule and whether it's domestic or international. Airlines are required to explain your rights in writing in those situations. The key is staying calm and making sure you get documentation of what happened, because details matter. Another little twist: your chances of getting bumped are not random. If you check in late, show up late to the gate, or book certain fare types, you may be more vulnerable depending on the airline's policies and priority lists. That's why checking in early and arriving on time isn't just good behavior, it's risk management. And when you see boarding groups and priority lanes, you're seeing the same logic in a different form. Airlines organize people to protect their high-value customers and keep the process moving, which brings us to a secret that annoys people the most because it feels unfair on purpose. Number 7. Boarding groups aren't about fairness. Boarding is marketed like an orderly system. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3. But in reality, it's a strategy to control space and reward certain customers. Overhead bin space is limited. If everyone boarded at once, it would be chaos. So airlines create a hierarchy. People who paid more, people with airline status, people with certain credit cards, people in premium cabins, and then everyone else. That's why you'll see early boarding for first class, then elites, then maybe families and passengers who need extra time, and then the rest. It's not a moral ranking. It's a business model plus a logistics problem. And if you're in later groups, the risk isn't that you won't get a seat, you have a seat assignment, but that your carry-on might not get overhead space near you. That's when you get the dreaded, "We'll need to check your bag at the gate." Sometimes that gate check is free, and they'll tag it to your final destination. Sometimes it's a quick valet gate check, where you pick it up plainside after landing. The difference matters, and it depends on the airline, the airport, and the aircraft size. So if you ever hear "this is a full flight," that's code for overhead space will be a fight. Another timing detail people get wrong. The door doesn't close at the departure time printed on your ticket. That printed time is when the plane is scheduled to push back from the gate, not when you should stroll up. Many airlines close boarding earlier, sometimes 10 to 15 minutes before departure, sometimes more, because they need time for final counts, paperwork, and making sure the plane can leave. If you show up at the last second and the door is closed, you can have a perfectly valid boarding pass and still not be allowed on. That feels brutal, but from the airline's perspective, holding the plane for one person can cause missed slots, missed connections for dozens of people, and ripple delays. So the secret is simple. The schedule is written for the plane, not for you. Your personal deadline is earlier than the printed departure time, and if you're trying to keep your carry-on with you, your boarding group actually matters more than most people want to admit. All of this is happening inside a building designed to steer your behavior, which is why the next secret is one of the most expensive. Airports are basically shopping malls with runways attached. Number 8. Airports are built to drain wallets. Once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Airports are engineered to keep you moving past stores, food, and ads. The walking paths often snake you through duty-free zones. Seating is placed near retail. Charging outlets are sometimes oddly scarce near the cheapest food options. Even the way gates are numbered can push you past certain areas. And then there's the simple fact that airport rent and operating costs are high, so prices go up. The secret isn't that everything is expensive. You already know that. The secret is that airports rely on small convenience purchases because tired, stressed travelers make fast decisions. Water is the best example. People buy overpriced bottles because they're thirsty, and they don't want to deal with security rules. But in many airports, you can bring an empty reusable bottle through security and fill it after. That one habit saves money on every trip. Same with snacks. A simple sandwich or protein bar from outside the airport can stop you from panic buying a $19 meal you don't even like. Another wallet trap is currency exchange kiosks and convenient exchange counters. The rates can be rough and the fees can be sneaky. If you need cash, using a bank ATM can be a better deal than a flashy exchange booth. Just watch for ATM fees and choose to be charged in local currency if you're given the option, because the helpful conversion rate offered on the screen is often not friendly. Also, people forget that airports now charge for comfort in tiny ways. Paid fast-track security lanes, seat selection, lounge access, priority boarding, Wi-Fi upgrades. Sometimes those extras are worth it. Sometimes they're just a tax on anxiety. A practical way to think about it is pay for the things that reduce real risk, not the things that just feel nice. If you're traveling during peak season and overhead bin space is a problem, paying for an earlier boarding group might genuinely save you the hassle of a forced gate check. If you have a tight connection, paying to sit closer to the front can save minutes that matter. But buying random upgrades because you're bored at the gate is how airports win. Even lounges fit into this. Lounges aren't just luxury, they're a crowd management tool. They pull people out of the gate area, reduce congestion, and create a calmer environment for travelers who pay for it. If you're going to use one, make sure it actually solves a problem for you. Quiet space, reliable Wi-Fi, food you'd otherwise buy anyway, because otherwise it's just another expensive waiting room. And while we're talking about expensive problems, the biggest fear purchase of all is replacing stuff after baggage trouble. Which is why you want to understand the next secret. Most lost bags aren't lost. Number 9. Lost bags are usually just misrouted. When an airline says a bag is lost, what they usually mean is, we don't have it in your hands right now. Most missing bags are delayed or sent to the wrong place, not permanently gone. Bags move through a system of scanners, belts, carts, and loading teams, and one tiny mistake, like a tight connection, a gate change, a tag getting damaged, or a late check-in, can send it on a different path. The helpful part is that baggage systems are more trackable than they used to be. Many airlines now show bag status in their apps, like when it's loaded, when it arrives, and which carousel it should show up on. Even if your airline doesn't have great tracking, you can still improve your odds by doing a few simple things that don't involve any weird tricks. Take a clear photo of your suitcase before you check it. Not an artsy photo. One that shows the color, shape, and any unique marks. Keep your baggage tag stub or screenshot the digital tag if it's in the app. Remove old baggage stickers from past trips so scanners don't get confused. Put your contact info inside the bag as well as on the outside, because outer tags can get ripped off. And don't pack your absolute essentials, medication, keys, important documents in a checked bag if you can avoid it. If your bag doesn't arrive, file a report immediately, ideally before you leave the baggage claim area, because that's when staff can sometimes locate it faster. Ask for the reference number for your report and keep it. Also, understand the difference between airline responsibility and your own choices. Airlines have rules about liability and claims, and those rules can vary by route and country. The point isn't to memorize legal language at the carousel. The point is to keep documentation so you can follow up without guessing. A modern twist is personal tracking devices. Lots of travelers put a small tracker inside their luggage, and while that won't physically move the bag, it can reduce the stress of not knowing where it is, and it can sometimes help you give more precise information when you're talking to baggage services. Just remember, a tracker is not permission to walk into restricted areas or chase bags behind doors. It's an information tool, not a backstage pass. And if you really want to reduce baggage drama, it helps to understand a final secret that explains why people get surprised at the airport in the first place. Your ticket contains way more information than you think, and most travelers never read it. Number 10. Your ticket is a cheat sheet. A boarding pass looks like a simple rectangle with a QR code, a seat number, and a time. But behind that, your reservation has layers. Your fare type, your booking class letter, your baggage allowance, whether seat changes are allowed, whether your ticket can be changed, whether you earn miles, whether upgrades apply, and sometimes even priority order for standby or overbooking situations. A lot of passengers get caught off guard because they think economy is economy, but airlines sell multiple versions of economy now. Basic economy on one airline might mean no carry-on. On another, it might mean no seat selection. On another, it might mean last boarding group. The rules aren't universal, and the airport is the worst place to discover the fine print. This is also where code shares cause confusion. You might buy a ticket on one airline's website, but the flight is operated by a partner airline. Then baggage rules can depend on the marketing carrier versus the operating carrier, and sometimes the rule is based on which airline is considered the most significant part of the route. That's why someone can swear, "I always get a carry-on for free," and then suddenly they don't, because this time the ticket was sold under a different set of rules. Another hidden detail is the difference between your record locator and your ticket number. The record locator is usually a short code used to find your booking in the airline system. The ticket number is a longer number tied to the actual payment and issuance of the ticket. When something goes wrong, like refunds, reissues, or partner airline mix-ups, knowing which one to provide can save time. Even the little codes on a boarding pass can matter. Some airports use automated gates that scan your pass and direct you, some systems show your boarding sequence, and some passes include security selection indicators that can lead to extra screening. You can't game most of this, and you shouldn't try. But you can reduce surprises by doing one simple thing. Before travel day, open your airline app or your confirmation email and look specifically for the baggage allowance and the boarding rules for your fare. Not the general policy page, the policy that applies to your ticket. That's the difference between walking into the airport confident versus walking in hoping the rules will be the same as last time, even though you bought a different product this time, on a different airline, through a different partner, at a different airport, on a different aircraft, with a different crew, under a different set of conditions. And that's why your ticket number and your record locator are not the same thing.